Good afternoon, everybody, on the 9th of September, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting here in Huddersfield Town Hall. Members of the Cabinet are all here. I won't ask them to introduce themselves, but we are all here. So there's no apologies. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone? No? A shaking of heads? We've got no declaration of interest. Sorry, beg your pardon, Councillor Hawkins.
The item 16 and 17, the asset transfers, these are both within my ward, and I've been engaging with both groups throughout the process.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Does that mean you will not be voting or leaving the room or just declaring an interest? Thank you. Just for the audience, he just declared a non-pecuniary interest in this. Okay, so moving on to minutes of the previous meeting. Can we approve those? They are approved, thank you very much. Admission of the public. We have got some members of the public here, but I haven't been made aware of any questions from those. Whilst talking about admission of the public, there will be, with item 12, there are some private and confidential papers which I will now ask the Cabinet if they have read and taken into account in, they will be able to take that into account when we make the decision on item 12, so thank you. And if that being the case, we won't need to go into private session at that item. So number 5, deputations and petitions. We have none, I believe, thank you. So members of, going on to questions by members of the public, again, we have none. So it's straight on to item 7, which is questions by elected members. And I've been given notification of 4 members that wish to speak. I will only allow 30 minutes for this item as per the Constitution. But the first question is from Councillor Joe Lawson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Like many of you here present, I've received concerning emails regarding the construction in Cleckheaton. I've also read about it in the papers. Knowing that houses around the site have tested positive for various types of asbestos. Can you actually tell me at what stage would public health actually intervene? At what level of particulates found in people's houses around the site would that public health intervene?
Now, that is a question which various people sitting in front of me could actually answer. I don't know if you're actually, when you mention public health, if you're actually looking to Councillor Addy for a public health response, or Councillor Turner for planning, or even, I believe, Councillor Crook could join in on that one.
I would actually like it answered, and I do believe, as I've specifically mentioned public health, unfortunately, Councillor Addy, it's up to you, my dear.
Over to you, Councillor Addy.
Hi, yes. Well, this has been looked at very closely, and people haven't actually shared these results with us, I don't believe, at this time. If they have since, then obviously that's new news about their own testing. But we have had people out on site, and obviously environmental health sits with my colleague, planning sits with my other colleague, but there is a point, obviously, where public health has an interest in this. But the tests that we've done on site and around the site for 2 weeks have shown no asbestos coming from that site and on around the site. So we have been out and double checked what we've got around the site. I don't know what level as a specific figure, but if somebody's got tests from their own home and they've done them inside their own home, if they want to share them with us and we can have a look at what problems they seem to have found, that would be great. We'd obviously take it very seriously if they've got tests, but we do need to come out and do tests under controlled circumstances to double check, and we did double check all around the site.
Councillor Lawson, do you want to come back on that or have a supplementary?
Thank you. I was under the impression that those results had actually been shared with members of cabinet members, and obviously it was actually through the media that I actually found out about the fact that there was the testing there. Can you also confirm that prior to any construction work, what actual work was actually done to ensure that the site was safe, and it wasn't just a question of the tests were done after the event and when residents raised the problem?
Can I actually ask David Shepherd? I mean, he might be able to give you a slightly better answer in terms of your first part of your question, but certainly he can give a full answer, I believe, on the second part.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of the testing that's been undertaken on site, we've had 4 weeks of airborne testing around the site, around the perimeter of the site, and that's not proved positive for asbestos or any airborne pollutants around the site, hence why I've decided to step down that testing at the end of the 4-week period because there's no need to continue. We've been reassuring residents throughout the whole process so that they've got information from ourselves in terms of the testing that we've been able to undertake. In terms of moving forward with the planning, the planning arrangements, we made sure that there were appropriate arrangements in place for the determination of the planning application. We deal with ground contaminants and make sure there is a contaminated land consultant in place. The developer's contaminated land consultant, and they've been present throughout the whole of the arrangement on this site. We've worked with external agencies, the Health and Safety Executive and UCSA as well, neither of whom have determined that they want to get involved with this site. They've left it to the local authority.
Thank you, David. The next question is from Andrew Cooper, Councillor Andrew Cooper.
So my question is to Councillor Hawkins. I checked what support was available to help householders insulate their homes and came across the Warm Homes Local Grant on the government website. It said, if you're eligible and your local council has funding available, they will arrange a home survey to see how your home could be made more energy efficient. They might suggest improvements like wall, loft and underfloor insulation, air source heat pumps, smart controls, solar panels. Your local council will then organise and pay for any improvement work they've agreed with you. You will not need to pay for it. While checking the government website, I found that Kirklees was not participating. I then checked all the neighbouring West Yorkshire councils who had secured funding to help their residents as followed. Bradford, 7.1 million. Calderdale, 3.2 million. Leeds, 5.9 million. Wakefield, 1.5 million. But nothing for Kirklees. Why is Kirklees not participating in this scheme to help its residents? Did we not apply, or was our application unsuccessful?
I think I might be better placed to answer that question. There was, unfortunately, we didn't apply for the first round of that funding for various reasons, all of which are good reasons not to have done so, or justifiable reasons for not, I should say, because it obviously wasn't good that we missed out. But we are applying, in the process of applying for the second round of that funding. So we do hope that our residents will be able to benefit from that.
Okay.
Supplementary, Councillor Cooper.
So we have undefined justifiable reasons. We have obviously disappointed because our residents have missed out on funding which could help them reduce their fuel bills, help us reduce our council, our emissions, help get local jobs and local skills in the area. We've let down. So you tell me there are justifiable reasons. I think it would be good if you could let us know what those justifiable reasons are, and is it a lack of capacity in the council to be able to pick up this sort of work and to be able to make these applications? Because it's all well and good saying that we are a leading council, as you do, in terms of tackling carbon emissions, but when it comes to a thing like this, which other councils in West Yorkshire have got schemes and we haven't, it's reasonable for us to ask questions, why not?
It is reasonable to ask why not, and I can assure you that I have asked those questions. But unfortunately, I'm not in a position to state publicly exactly what those reasons are. It does involve information which is really not meant to be in the public domain, I'm afraid. But having said that, there is capacity now for this new round, and we will do all we can to make sure we do satisfy, well, not satisfy, but make up for that deficiency in future. The next question is from Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about our planning committees that we currently have here in Kirklees. We originally had 3 planning committees, Heavy Woolen, Huddersfield and Strategic. We reduced them to 2, saying that we would be able to process quicker, things would be different and it'd work a lot better. But what we're finding is there's a backlog in planning, committees are not sitting, they've been cancelled again this week, and it's really worrying that we've got members that are asking for applications to be directed to committee, because that was one of the reasons that we said we'd reduce, and as long as a member did attend and talk on the issue, that they would be heard. But we're finding that the chair is making the decision that he won't allow them to go to committee. Can you find out what on earth is going on? Because it's not right. We've got applicants, we've got councillors, and actually people losing money because of this.
Councillor Graham Turner, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you, Councillor Scott, for the question. I'm not aware that the backlog at the moment is any greater than it has been. We always have a slight backlog in our planning department due to a number of reasons, lack of staff, which is a national problem, lack of experts in certain areas of the council. When we put the changes in, we delegated the more powers to the officers to make decisions, which has speeded the process up, despite what people may tell you. It actually has speeded the process up, and that the chairs of the committees were given the powers to make sure that anything that went to committee was justified, and we stopped some of the previous things that were sent to committee, which was clearly not suitable for committee. So it was tightening up of that. So it is down to chair's discretion, and I do believe, as I say, that the position on backlog is no worse than it has been for some time. We recognise, as I said, there is a backlog, but we've put lots of changes in to try and keep that going in the right direction.
Councillor Scott, have you got a supplementary?
I do. Thank you, Councillor Turner, for this. I think it's a bit of a nonsense, what you are saying, because delegating to officers yet again is taking the democratic right of residents and councillors to speak on applications that are coming forward or directed to the committees. My fear is, and I think that this needs to be laid down, when the West Yorkshire Mayor is presiding over applications, when she will declare it, is it our intention that we take away democracy from local people having a say on planning applications and just allowing it to flow through the West Yorkshire Mayor's position?
Councillor Turner, do you...
The West Yorkshire Mayor's position is been driven by the current legislation that's been taken through Parliament, and I can't comment on that at the moment. Going back to our delegation.
Chair, sorry to interrupt you, Graham. We can't hear a word you're saying. We can't hear a word you're saying.
Sorry, I'll shout up. we can't, I'm not going to comment on the West Yorkshire thing, because that's a government policy, and that will go run its own course. Our own policy, which you were, I seem to remember you were part of, was to reduce the 2 committees and to give officers the power to delegate more and more decisions. This wasn't anything unique. This was in line with all the other West Yorkshire local authorities, and it seemed a nonsense to employ highly skilled, highly trained experts in planning to take decisions away from them to go to committee. So they make the decisions on the applications that are deemed necessary for an officer's decision. Anything that is major or substantial still goes to committee.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. My next question is from Councillor Safdar.
So I have one question. Pretend I'm Tanisha for one question, please. If that's okay, she sends apologies, she's not well. But I've got 2 questions on behalf of my community. So a question for Councillor Pinnock. I know she is passionate about communities. So a recent large mini mailer gala charity event in our local rec, Rashcliffe Rec, was a statement that our community cares and that we take pride in our shared spaces, and that together we can transform places that were once neglected into spaces we can all value. The community were very grateful to the youth-led organisation Sirat Al-Khair. They were also very grateful to Councillor Joe Lawson, Councillor Alex Vickers, and the limited activity by the Green Space Action Team. The park has long struggled with fly tipping and antisocial behaviour issues. I think it's probably the most neglected green space play area in Huddersfield, in one of the most deprived wards in Huddersfield. But through the dedication of local volunteers from mosques and other places of worship, and with a little bit of council support, it became a clean, welcoming hub with thousands of people attending last Sunday. The police were in attendance and they were beaming, they were really happy. The event went really well. Lots of people from different backgrounds attended, lots of food, lots of fun, and lots of money raised for good causes. But what we're asking for is visits from the relevant cabinet members to this, and now it's come back to being a bit of a dirty play area. It's gone to its old condition with fly tipping and antisocial behaviour at the hours after the event. So we're asking for regular momentum and support from the council so we can have regular community events, children's activities during the summer, and a space where everyone feels welcome and everyone feels connected. So we're asking for this support, not only to prevent fly tipping, but asking for support to make this a hub for cross-community events, so we can have pride in this community space, a space where men, the elders, used to play with their children and grandchildren, but now feel it's become a bit of a no-go zone. So I'm hoping the relevant cabinet members can attend with me soon.
Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Councillor Safdar. I think the simple answer is yes. What I'd like to really say is I'd like to thank the community for all that the work that they've done to assist in clearing litter and fly tipping, as you pointed out. And at the moment, what the council are doing is, first of all, we are putting together a strategy to deal with fly tipping, looking at prevention, deterrence and education. But also, quite recently, we have committed to clearing a backlog of fly tipping. We know there's been issues of fly tipping being present for 3 months or more, which isn't acceptable. So what we've been doing is we've been working towards recruiting staff and temporary staff to try and clear that backlog. So in due course, we'll all see things are starting to improve, and I'm monitoring that very closely. I also had a meeting last week with fly tipping groups. I think there were 3 groups that we had meetings with to talk about how the council can assist these particular groups tackling litter and obviously making the stuff that they do, which is so important, making it much easier with the support from the council to assist it in that respect. As I say, the answer is yes. Of course, the council want to support communities and community works and community events. So I'm more than happy to meet with you to talk about how we can bring that to fruition.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor Safdar, have you a supplementary?
Yes, so the local place of worship and the young community volunteers, especially Southwell Care, and my colleagues were very grateful for the Green Space Action Team to attend. But it's a shame that they only attended just before an event. And unfortunately, the clean-up, it was great, but not quite what we required. But okay, I'll move on to, can I move on to question 2 now, on behalf of Councillor Bramwell? Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I have got another person who, Alia. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Yes, Amanda, do you want to come back on the supplementary?
Yeah,
Sorry,
so I'd like to thank the team, Green Action team, for attending the event and obviously trying to work well with the community for this particular event. And as I've explained, we have had issues with staffing in terms of, backdating, clearing fly tipping and that sort of thing. So, as I say, in the future, hopefully what we'll see is, areas like this improve. And I'm more than willing to work with you. And obviously the team is willing to work with you to see that these things are resolved and as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. I will now actually ask Ali Arshad to ask his question, and then I'll come back to you, Imran.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I wish to take the conversation back to the land off Westgate in Cleckheaton. I don't feel that we have really explored the concerns of the local community. A few weeks ago, I was invited onto the site, or should I say outside of the site, and the obvious thing to me were the hoardings. They weren't fit for purpose. Rather than seeing hoardings that are of the correct style, height, that would keep the dust levels low, instead there was just barriers, just queuing barriers, similar to what you would see at concerts, etc. Not only that, but there were levels of dust being kicked up by the vehicles that were passing by. There weren't any measures taken to reduce that level of dust and keep it to ground level. Not only that, but previously it was an asbestos factory, so there are concerns. And tests have been carried out by members of the local community. And the concerns aren't just asbestos, it's also lead, cyanide, arsenic, and maybe other dangerous chemicals. What I don't want is for us to under-investigate it and have another Netflix series of Toxic Town, as we're aware of what happened in Corby. Now, I am not privy to any of the test data, but I've been reassured that there is test data that has been shared with Kirklees. Now, my concern is, when a few minutes ago we were talking about this, it was bouncing from one person to another, and David had to come in and answer a few questions instead. I would like for this to be halted, if not for the testing alone, to also look at the preventative measures that we have in place to reduce the dust and keep it to a lower level. That is the bare basic of what we should be doing. These are preventative measures for the dust to be flying out into the surrounding streets. And then going forward, I think the local community needs to be spoken to, representative of Kirklees and the Cabinet. And I believe all three should then be present at a meeting that is to be held, a public meeting that is to be held at 7 p.m. on Sunday the 14th of September at St. Luke's Church. And I believe that's the most responsible action that we should be taking to address the concerns of the local community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arshad. Let me assure you, it was not bouncing around between members of the Cabinet. The Cabinet and officers have taken this issue very seriously, and therefore most members, if not all members of the Cabinet, are fully aware of all of the issues around the site and have visited it and have spoken with residents, and we have put out communication to residents, and much of what you've asked for, I know, is already in place. But I will, and I did ask David Shepherd to come in, because he could come in with that absolute minute detail that I thought you deserved to hear. I will ask Councillor Turner, as a member of the Cabinet, just to come back on some of that, and then I'll perhaps go back to David Shepherd again, because he is so fully involved in this. So, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. Well, from a planning point of view, all the planning procedure was done through the application process. As we pointed out, there is always a contaminated land report that goes with that application. It was a complicated application, took some considerable time to get over the line, but as far as planning is concerned, all the requirements have been met by the developers. All the requirements were met in the run-up to the granting of the application, and since that. I get it's difficult with dust. It's been a very dry summer, and it's very difficult to build something without creating a certain amount of dust. And no matter how high a fence you put up there, I suspect dust will blow over it. So, but the developers have stuck to their planning conditions and have acted in accordance with those conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is there anything you'd like to add, David Shepherd?
Just to reassure, as I said, over the 4-week testing period, we haven't been able to get positive samples for dust leaving the site, so it hasn't left the site because we've had testing happening all the way around that. In terms of the measures that have taken place on the site, it's not necessarily the hoardings. They don't prevent dust from escaping. It's the dampening down measures that are taken when you're doing groundworks on site and moving lots of earth, particularly, as Councillor Turner said, in a dry summer. You're going to get dust on any construction site. So we have required dampening down measures. We have attended site on a number of occasions and seen those in place. I am aware of videos that have been circulating showing dust clouds that mainly have been on the site themselves. I'm not saying that dust has never escaped this site. Clearly that happens on many construction sites. We have, just to clarify, we did get a couple of resident samples that were shared via, I believe it was local ward members that shared those samples with us. They didn't demonstrate anything that would be concerning in terms of levels of asbestos or anything else that was present in those samples. Members have to be aware that in urban areas there is a background level of contaminants in place, and that's what the professional testing regimes in place in local authorities, as well as the national regimes such as the Health and Safety Executive and the UK Health Security Agency, that's what they look at. And I appreciate this is a concern for residents and for members. If there is any level of what are perceived to be toxic chemicals, they are unfortunately in the environment, but we make sure that they're at a level that they're not going to cause any harm for people, hence why they may show up on some random testing that people have undertaken within their own homes. I say random because that's the statistical term random. I don't mean to be denigrating that at all. In terms of the groundworks, I can say that they are nearing completion on this site. It is a cycle in the construction programme, and as the weather turns to a wetter weather, we expect to see less of the dust. I suspect what we will see then is issues with mud on the road, so we've made very clear to the developer that they need to take that in hand, and indeed they've already put cleaning mechanisms in place to deal with the mud on the road, and we expect them to keep them in place. In terms of the previous use of the site, I referred to that in terms of the planning arrangements, but we look at previously developed land, and we ensure that when people develop on previously developed land, they use appropriate methods such as cut and fill on the site. So you take away a certain level of the topsoil and you ensure that you fill that with new soil to stabilise the ground conditions. That also helps deal with contaminants within the soil that might be there as a result of previously developed land. And as I said before, this particular developer has had their own contaminated land consultant in place all the way throughout the development, because that was a requirement of planning that they have that contaminated land consultant in place. And that consultant is duty bound to make sure that any contaminants that are found on the site, that the developer deals with them appropriately and they report those to the appropriate agencies. And as I say, some of the residents took it upon themselves to report to the appropriate agencies. The appropriate agencies looked at the evidence and found that there was no reason for them to get involved. So I would suggest that should give you assurance that there is not a particular problem with regards to this site and the development of this site. As a result of that, I have no reason to instruct the development works to stop on that site. It would be abnormal for the council to do that when there is no evidence to do so. The council would understandably be liable for costs in those arrangements, but that is not the reason why I wouldn't instruct that. The reason is because there is no evidence to compel a ceasing of works on this site, and it is an appropriate site that's come through the planning process for development purposes, and that's what's happening. In terms of public meetings, my staff have attended public meetings. The environmental health staff did attend a public meeting with the local ward councillors and the MP and a number of members of the public, stayed to answer many questions. We've also made sure that there is a website working with communications colleagues to make sure that there's a dedicated website so that members of the public can get information that they need at the time they need it, but they can also give us information that they feel is pertinent to the council. So that's been in place for quite some time now. We've been through all the media channels to make sure that people are absolutely clear of what the council's position is and how we're looking to safeguard the interests of residents and businesses within the surrounding area. So I believe we've done everything that we can. We haven't been invited to come to the public meeting on Sunday the 14th of September as far as I'm aware, but we have made any number of arrangements in order to ensure that residents can contact us, including my officers have been out on individual visits. They've leafleted and letter dropped on every single property surrounding that site, and when we've been asked for a home visit, we've undertaken that home visit, and we will continue to do that if people want us to do that. Okay?
Thank you, David Shepherd. We've only got a few minutes left for members' questions. So, Ali, I will ask you if you've got a supplementary, and then I will allow Imran to ask Tanisha's question, but if you could both be as quick as possible, please. Thank you.
Really appreciate, David, for the thorough explanation. David, could I ask either yourself or one of your team members to be present on the Sunday the 14th meeting, because there is still information that we haven't taken on board over here as councillors that I would love for the local community and the research that they've done. Whatever searches and research that they've paid for that to not to go amiss.
That's noted. Thank you, Ali. Councillor Safdar, very quickly, your Tanisha's question, please. Right,
it's a quick one, yeah. So Councillor Bramwell had hoped to be here today, but unfortunately she's unwell and resting at home. We wish her well. On her behalf and with my own experiences, I'd like to raise an issue we both have concerns about, and many members here in the chamber. She's very concerned about the old narrative about fly tipping, potholes and repeated failures to deal with these issues properly. In her ward, she's reported mattresses in West Town at the beginning of summer. She's chased this down recently, told they will be cleared. Apologies were given, yet these fly tip sites still have mattresses there, and there's more rubbish dumped and ripped bags and scattered litter at these sites. In her ward, she's seen time and time again, reports have been made, promises have been given, but waste remains uncollected and residents are angry and losing faith. So her question is simple. When will the council finally admit its repeat failures to complete the most basic tasks and respond to reports? What real action will it take to improve this lacklustre service?
Thank you, Councillor Safdar. I think you've already had a response to that from Councillor Pinnock, so I won't ask her to repeat everything that she's already said in answer to your earlier question, unless there's anything that she would like to add to that. But other than that, I think you've already had the answer to that. Thank you.
I think it's difficult to add any more. I think I've been quite clear about the situation in that we have struggled with staff, we've struggled to retain staff. But actually, from the 1st of September, we should start to see an improvement over the next 8 weeks of fly tipping, a backlog of fly tipping being collected. And I don't think there's anything else I can say besides that. The council are trying their best with the limited resources that we have, the limited staff that we have, to try and sort this backlog out. And just to say, it's not unique to Councillor Bramwell's ward, it's unique to all wards in Kirklees. In fact, it's a national issue. There's been an increase in 20% of fly tipping nationally throughout the country. So this is just, it's a problem. It's a general problem, which is a national issue. So I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. I don't think you can have a supplementary when Councillor Bramwell isn't actually here. So that is the end of members' questions, and I'll move on to the main items on the agenda. And the first one is item 8, and that is the Council Plan and Performance Update Report, Quarter 1. I will present this. This report provides a narrative update against each of the four council plan priorities, including an update on progress and the activities delivered in the quarter. If you wish to see the detail of that, that's in the appendix. The key issues and the key highlights that we've picked out from that report are, as a key issue, is the number of people open to adult social care or reported to adult social care has risen by 6.5% over the last 12 months. The number of nursing and residential service users has increased by 38 over the last 3 months. And the number of younger people, 18 to 64, living in residential and nursing care is higher than the national average. Another is the number of looked after children that has risen by 12% over the last 12 months. The number of looked after children increased from 589 to 659 at the end of quarter 1. Though this number continues to be a lower number than our statistical neighbour benchmarks. The number of fly tipping incidents of interest has risen by 8%. Compared to the same period 12 months ago. And there is currently a backlog with wait times of up to 12 weeks, though, as we've already heard today, we are putting things in place where we really hope to see that backlog cleared. And again, this is a national issue, though Kirklees is higher than the regional benchmarks. Those are the key issues which we are working on. The key highlights, though, which we've also seen, is that the timeliness of EHCPs, Education, Health and Care Plans, has improved significantly, with 63.1% of EHCPs being finished within 20 weeks, an increase of 37 percentage points over the same quarter last year. And it's also that is better, far better actually, than the latest published national rate, which is 46.4. The number of open, damp, mould and condensation cases has reduced significantly during quarter 1, and at the end there were 463 cases open, a reduction of 62% of the cases compared to the same quarter last year. And a reduction of 73 cases compared to the end of quarter 4 last year. The current number of open cases is now lower than the latest national benchmark. The number of households in temporary accommodation has also reduced by 96 or 20% compared to 12 months ago, and that's really good news for those people affected by that. 378 households were in temporary accommodation. Unfortunately, though, still at the end of Q1 compared to 474 at the end of Q1 last year. So there are some good points and some not such good points from that quarterly report, but we do continue to work hard and to ensure that we are meeting our 4 priorities. This report is here for noting, is it noted? Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Scott. Oh, sorry. Well, I will bring Joe in, but which? Councillor Scott, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Yes, because it's quite hefty what I'm going to say and how you've gone through the report, I'll put it all under one heading. So what my questions are that what urgent action is Cabinet going to address the 12-week backlog of the fly tipping clearance? We need a clear plan of what's happening, and how will Cabinet ensure that the vulnerable children and families keep pace with the 12% rise in the looked after children? And why are the young adults in Kirklees more likely to be in residential care than nationally? And what steps are being taken to reduce this? Okay.
That's obviously. I will actually ask the Cabinet members to come back on that. I could answer, but I know that they'll be able to give you a slightly better answer because they are within their portfolio areas. I will ask yet again Councillor Pinnock to come in on the fly tipping, and then I'll come to Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Scott. I won't be telling you anything that you don't already know. So there was a time where there was a recruitment freeze in Kirklees, which meant that as staff left, they weren't necessarily replaced. That has now changed to some extent, which means that we are now recruiting a lot more staff in areas where we've had a deficit of staff, especially in the Green Action team. We're asking staff to do a lot more than they used to do before. There's higher expectations, and that also impacts on staff retention. So we've had issues in the team in making sure that fly tipping, is collected. So that's one issue. The second issue, as I've said, is nationally there's an increase in fly tipping in the country. You've heard what was said in the report about the 8% increase in Kirklees. So in reality, it's like a perfect storm, isn't it? We have limited staff. At the same time, fly tipping's increased. And we're in a position now where we have taken on some temporary agency staff to look at clearing the backlog, because we recognise that 3 months or more to clear fly tipping isn't where we want to be in Kirklees. So that's in place. That started from the 1st of September. And the idea is over the next 8 weeks, the backlog will be tackled and we should start seeing an improvement. And as I've said, I'm monitoring that. In terms of the future then and how we can work towards or ensure fly tipping is addressed in a timely manner, there is things happening at the moment. So there's the Keep Britain Tidy pilot that's happening in Heckman-Wyke, which although it's looking at litter, there's also a crossover of fly tipping. There's a lot of work that's going into that, which I think is coming to an end next year. And through that process, there'll be a lot of learning that we can adopt as part of looking at a fly tipping strategy. But also as well, we are working on a fly tipping strategy. As I said earlier on, we're looking at deterrence, we're looking at prevention, we're looking at education, we're looking at prosecutions. You may have seen in the press that the council are prosecuting a lot more. Prosecution was an issue because, again, we were struggling with staff. We had limited staff, and as you can imagine, compiling the evidence that's needed for a successful prosecution isn't easy. It's lengthy. You need the staff in which to do that. You need the evidence in which to do that. So all these things together, as I've said, has created that perfect storm for where we are at the moment. So we've got the Keep Britain Tidy, which is a pilot that we will be hopefully getting some fantastic learning from. We've got this fly tipping strategy, which is coming, I think, around August next year, where we're looking at these specific items as to how we can improve things for the future. And I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor Kendrick?
Thank you, Chair. It would be really helpful if Councillor Scott would repeat the bit about children's, because I didn't quite catch it. Thank you.
Councillor Kendrick, I'm more than happy to send that to you if that would be helpful, because I do realise there's other councillors waiting, so I'm happy to send that one to you.
No, I'm happy to answer it. I just
well, that's fine. Okay, I'll ask it again then.
Thank you.
How will Cabinet ensure services for vulnerable children and families keep pace with the 12% rise in looked after children?
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't catch the start of your question, so thank you for that. I mean, I think the work of the service actually demonstrates how effective it is, both in terms of the early years work, the early intervention, our appetite for kinship carers. We have the largest number of kinship carers with any of our statistical neighbours, and certainly geographical neighbours. And certainly there are times when other organisation agencies have a right, well, I'll be frank about this, the police have a right to say this child needs to come into care. Those cases are looked at very carefully to see whether that's perhaps, I don't want to be rude, but a knee-jerk reaction rather than a bit of a thoughtful approach. And of course, if the courts say that a child needs to be in care, we have no option. The rise in the number of children coming into care, we can't plan for when it's a sudden need. And I think off the top of my head, we've had 6 sibling groups of 6 children, which is, you know, suddenly arrive and need to be cared for. And that really relates to the rise in the number of children in care. It is something I'm aware that the service looks at very closely. The director of looking after that part of the service is constantly on it. It is a conversation I have very, very regularly. And I have to say, even though we have that rise, and it isn't unusual, it'll go up and down, you know, we don't have control of that. Next to our statistical neighbours, we have a lot less increase, although they've had increases too, and we're certainly way below the national rates as such. All I can say and reassure is that a lot of work is in there to prevent children on the edge of care coming into care, which is really effective, and we're investing more in that. But in the end, a child turning up on a Friday night that needs care needs to have care, and we can't turn them away.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Can I now go, Councillor Lawson, your question?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I'm going to raise fly tipping again. I knew you all probably realised I was going to do that. Is reading this report, we've actually seen a rise in fly tipping of 8%. We've actually got a backlog of 1,400 reported fly tips, but there's probably many more that haven't been reported in. I walked around my ward on Sunday, about 1.5 miles, and in that journey, I reported in 10 incidents of fly tipping. We've also got the fact that it can take up to 12 weeks, and that the number of fly tips incidences in Kirklees is higher than the regional average. Maybe not as high as the national average, but it is still higher than our neighbours. The often chanted mantra of this cabinet when I've raised fly tipping questions before is Kirklees has a 0 tolerance to fly tipping. But the aforementioned figures and the less than sort of 1% rate of prosecution seems to suggest otherwise. Is it not now time for this Cabinet to revisit the issue of fly tipping that is blighting all of our wards, to have a root and branch review of how fly tipping is tackled? Because it shouldn't just be about how quickly we can actually collect the fly tipping. And it shouldn't just be about posting sound bites on social media saying that we'll crush the vehicles and the vans of fly tippers. You've got to catch them in the first place. And also to realise that the present system of 2 vans going out across the whole of Kirklees just isn't working. Yes, we may well have finally got some temporary staff in, but there should never have been a freeze on jobs in the fly tipping and the green space action team to start with. I was under the impression that certain jobs wouldn't be part of a job freeze. For our residents, those are the kind of actions they want the council to see. They are to them the vital jobs, and we're freezing them and ending up with sort of our streets littered with fly tipping. Cabinet needs to look at a whole range of issues, and to me it's starting with looking at the actual cause of fly tipping. It's not a question just of how, as I've said previously, of how fast we can clear it up, but let's actually look at why there is fly tipping. Look at how we dispose of our waste. Who can use the tips? Let's reopen the tips that are closed. And let's look at what other councils are doing in the battle against fly tipping. Birmingham City Council has a mobile household waste support team. They go around on a regular basis to fly tipping hotspots. This is something that I have actually raised with the relevant Cabinet member and with officers. Let's look at being more proactive in our battle against fly tipping, or as the 2 lads from the team that I spoke to up on Ratcliffe Hill Park said, why not just have an amnesty? It'll be so much easier for us to come into certain areas and just collect the fly tipping from somebody's garden gate instead of actually trying to sort of go down embankments and all sorts of stuff. We need to seriously address the fly tipping, and to me, in the first instance, it's looking at the causes of fly tipping.
I will ask Councillor Pinnock to come back briefly on that, because I think you had an awful lot again already in terms of answer to that. I will also add that Councillor Hawkins will be talking about simpler recycling a little bit later, which also will answer some of your queries. But I'll go Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lawson. I think you've raised some really good points, and I think a lot of what you've raised I've already addressed, and I don't want to repeat myself, although I think it's very important to keep saying, you know, what we're doing and what we're hoping to achieve for the future. So just in response to some of the things that you've said there, so the figures that are there, it's most likely that the data that's there may be repeat reports of fly tipping. So we've got to be mindful of data and what that information will probably contain. So although, you know, we've got a number for the reported fly tipping, actually, just like yourself, people will have reported fly tipping in relation to one particular item more than once. We do obviously have a zero tolerance, and I've said it more than once in this chamber, to fly tipping. But as I've explained, because of the circumstances, the perfect storm, we've found ourselves in a bit of a bind where more than 3 months, I think, on some occasions, on, you know, collecting fly tipping. So, you know, there is a change. It's already been implemented at the moment. Rather than having 2 vans, my understanding is we've got 4 vans now. So that's also improved. So we've improved the number of staff, we've improved the number of vehicles going out to collect fly tipping. So again, we should see, hopefully in the future, we'll see a marked improvement. This strategy is coming, and this strategy is going to be looking at exactly what you've talked about. Why is it happening? but it can't be looked in isolation of what my colleague is doing, Councillor Hawkins. You know, it's something we have to work together with as a team to look at, obviously, prevention and how we can, you know, support people to make the right choices. The 1% prosecution, I think it speaks for itself. We haven't had the staff to deal with prosecutions, but that's starting to improve. And you've probably seen it in social media where we've actually named individuals who have, you know, fly tipped. We've talked about, obviously, what sort of penalties they've received. But talking about prosecutions is an interesting area because the way the magistrates deal with things isn't always the way we'd like the magistrates to deal with it. Punishments sometimes aren't as strong as we'd like them to be. So that's also part of the deterrence. And one of the things that myself and the team have talked about is possibly writing to the Ministry of Justice and asking them to have a relook at how magistrates deal with fly tipping. So there's lots of individual things that we're doing, myself as Cabinet Member and the team, to look at how we can tackle fly tipping for the future. And I guess in due course, I'll be coming back to this chamber to talk about what we will be doing and how things are going. But at this moment in time, it's very early days. We're focusing on the backlog, which is what we should be doing. So I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Can I just remind all members, Cabinet and other, that actually you've only got 5 minutes to speak. I've not been actually timing you, but or cutting you off, but I think we have breached that. But Councillor Scott, you wanted to come back.
Yeah, it's for Councillor Pinnock, and it's a quick one. What impact has the closure of Nab Lane had on fly tipping?
Councillor Pinnock. Or do you want to pass that to Councillor Hawkins?
I think I'd like to pass that to Councillor Hawkins, please.
Received. Thank you, Councillor Pinnock, and thank you, Councillor Scott, for the question. So in terms of the, I can't speak too much to the data of the fly tipping in the area. We haven't seen a substantial increase in the area, but in terms of as well the waste that was going to Nab Lane, that, you know, going to other sites as well, we have seen it equalise quite well across the districts as well. So there hasn't been the closure of Nab Lane hasn't particularly caused a more serious issue to fly tipping, other than the one that we are currently facing, which Councillor Pinnock has perfectly articulated the national problems that we are facing and how Kirklees fits into that picture. But there doesn't seem to be a correlation between Nab Lane and what we are seeing across the district.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. I will now move on to the next item, which is the item 9, Corporate Financial Monitoring Report, Quarter 1. Councillor Turner, would you like to present this?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the overview. The Quarter 1 Financial Monitoring Report provides Cabinet with an update on the Council's financial position as at the end of June 2025. It covers the general fund, revenue, housing revenue account of the HRA, the DSG, the dedicated schools grant, and the capital plan. So quarter 1, we have a forecast overspend of 5.9 million. This is the lowest quarter 1 overspend since the COVID period, reflecting improved budget management. Whilst overspends are not welcome, we always predict an overspend at the end of quarter 1. And as in previous quarter 1 overspends, 22-23 was 24.6, 23-24 was 20.3, and 24-25 was 12.9. So we're actually heading in the right direction in quarter 1. And I'm sure that that 5.9 million will be able to pull that back before the end of the year. So the executive directors have been asked to bring forward sustainable proposals to reduce the overspend and restore budget balance. The HRA account has a forecast overspend of 181,000 and the year-end reserve forecast of 14 million. DSG deficit forecast increase is 12.5 million, not uncommon across the country, unfortunately. So the total DSG deficit by year-end will be 76.3. On the capital plan, net reduction in 25-26 capital programme, 9.6 million due to the reprofiling of 9.9 million into future years, 7.2 million general fund and 2.7 in HRA. Net increase in overall capital plan of 0.4 million, funded by additional grants and Section 106 contributions. Some budget amendments, so the 149k originally allocated for Christmas week bin collections has been redirected, 100k to support the fly tipping strategy, which will no doubt please some people in this room this afternoon, and 49k to the Kirklees clean-up project. On treasury management, prudential indicators for Q1 have been reviewed and are included in the report appendices. And just to prove a point that we don't rehearse this, and we don't liaise with each other, and as the leader has pointed out, and as my colleague for Children's Services, we have seen extra pressures on children's services with rising demand and rising costs, and a rise in external placements, which, as we all know, are expensive, and the average costs have risen by 4k a month for external placements. These pressures are the primary reason for the predicted overspend in children's services, and colleagues in children's services continue to run an efficient and quality service and will always look at ways of balancing their budget over the next 3 quarters. The delay in the transfer of the Council's dementia care homes will have an impact on the adult social care budget, estimated at about 400k. Again, we've seen rising demand for adult services, thus resulting in the predicted overspend. So in conclusion, the Q1 report reflects a more controlled and financially stable environment compared to previous years, with early signs of improvement due to budget adjustments made in the 25-26 budget. However, pressures still remain, particularly the DSG and General Fund, and these will require continued monitoring and corrective action. Chair, can I ask the Cabinet to approve and receive today's report on our financial monitoring?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I will second that report. Are there any questions on that? Councillor Scott and then Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. I actually note on page 106, it's about parking, the income from parking, and it's shown in red in Q1. The financial report states it's £84,000 down on the same quarter against last year. Given the underperformance, were our budget assumptions realistic or overstated? And what are the knock-on effects on this loss of income? Are residents going to be asked to pay more for parking? And how are we going to protect our vital town centres, particularly because you've got your innovative programmes that you're going to be running there, you're going to be putting parking there. How is this going to be balanced out for residents? Are we going to ask them to pick up the tab?
Councillor Turner.
No, not through extra car parking charges. We have a policy in place now increasing parking charges in line with inflation each year. So no, there won't be an extra increases above and beyond what we expect in car parking charges to make up the deficit. The deficits that can be there for a number of reasons, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the rest of the financial year. But as I say, it can be a number of reasons. It could simply be that we've had some bad weather, but unfortunately it's been the other way around. So people are not coming to town because it's hot or cold or whatever. There's any number of reasons why this. We've seen lots of roadworks and massive investment across Kirklees in various areas, which could have also had an impact on that. But we didn't overestimate it. It's just something we will continue to monitor throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the Q1 overspend in adult social care is 1,685,000, and thank you for Councillor Turner for actually confirming that 400,000 of this figure is due to the fact that the two dementia homes were not sold off as planned. Is this 400,000 in the first quarter is obviously eating into the projected savings that were given at Cabinet in February of 867,000. Cabinet ignored the calling around the financial aspects in February. They were also warned about a potential legal challenge. One Cabinet member brushed it off, saying that the campaign team would have to find their own legal costs. They did. It's called legal aid. We're obviously well into Q2 2 of the financial year. So how much more has the delayed privatisation of the dementia homes actually cost? And also, to date, how much has Kirklees actually spent on legal fees for the internal team that they have the external team that they have actually employed? And can the relevant cabinet member assure me that myself and our residents that there will be no further cuts in services should the current overspend in adult social care continue?
I will ask Councillor Turner to answer that question, but I think some of that is not relevant to this particular quarter monitoring report. But Councillor Turner.
So the parts that are relevant is the continued overspend. Obviously, any overspend on the due to the fact that we haven't sold the care homes will show up in quarter 2. So it's too early to say that because we're only 1 month into quarter 2. So that'll get picked up in quarter 2. Just because there was threats made against us for legal action, etc., doesn't mean to say that what we did wasn't right. We still believe it was the right right way to deal with the dementia care homes and their sustained losses. So we couldn't bow down to threats. We carried on with that. And we'll wait and see. I believe the judicial review is sometimes later this month, and we'll see what the outcome of that is. I have generally no idea what legal costs we've incurred so far. That's an issue that's contained within the adult social care budget. As to cuts to services, I don't anticipate any more cuts to services because we haven't sold the care homes. We will absorb, find ways of saving that money that we haven't saved already through the sale of the care homes.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'll now, well, is that we need to actually note that report, but also approve, as Councillor Turner pointed out, the £149,000 which has been redirected from Christmas week bin collections to support the fly tipping strategy, 100,000, and the Kirklees clean-up project of 49k. Are those recommendations agreed? Thank you. Right, moving on then to the next item, which is item 10, which is the corporate risk report, quarter 1, and Councillor Turner again.
Thank you, Chair. This report again is here for noting there are very few changes since the last report. Things to note are that a new risk has been raised, which is DEVO3, which is Project Management and Delivery, which considers the operational, reputational and financial consequences of projects do not progress in line with the agreed business case, both on time, cost and quality. This is assessed as amber rated risk, scored as 12. 2 risks have been removed from this quarter, both in adult social care. Risk AHO2, Adult Social Care Assurance Framework, has been removed. Recognising that this is a new inspection methodology, all necessary submissions were made in advance of the CQC deadlines, and the on-site visit took place in May. Whilst the outcomes is not yet known, we are familiar with the process and expectation and have a good understanding of required inputs and potential areas of focus. ECC01, climate change has increased from a score of 12 to 6. This reflects the impact of current resourcing gaps, with grant-funded environmental initiatives becoming more difficult or impossible to deliver on future funding is probably put at risk. So that's the majority of the important things, and I would ask Cabinet to approve this and note this report.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Scott, you have a question? No, you have no question. Okay. Anybody else got a question? No? Okay, thank you. This report is for noting and for the Cabinet to determine if any additional action not listed as part of the report is required. I don't think that any issue has been raised, so can we note that report then? Thank you. Moving on to item 11, Council Budget Strategy Update 26-27 and the following years, which this report will be referred to Council, but Councillor Turner again, please. Thank you.
Chair, thank you once again. Today's report provides an update to Cabinet and Council on the medium-term financial strategy, or the MTFS, and outlines the financial planning framework for 26-27 through to 2030-31. So key highlights, so there's a medium-term financial strategy, the MTFS overview. The MTFS sets a financial framework for the Council's budget planning over the next 5 years. It reflects updated assumptions on funding, inflation, service demand and national policy changes. Budget gap, a significant budget gap of approximately 18 million is forecast for 26-27. This gap will require reduction in budget pressures, identification of new savings proposals, potential service redesigns or efficiency measures. Whilst 18 million savings is challenging, it's nowhere near as great a figure as we saw under the last 14 years of the failed government policy of austerity. The precise level of future funding remains uncertain due to awaited outcomes of the Fair Funding Review 2.0. Changing government policy and local government finance settlement expected late November 2025. And since writing this report, I have come to the conclusion that the funding uncertainties may have increased following the recent Cabinet reshuffle. This could possibly bring about change in policy and direction for local government funding. Whilst I have no reason to believe that current funding policies will change, it would be remiss of me not to flag the potential for change at this point. The Chief Executive Section 151 Officer will continue to liaise with Government on the financial settlement for the next year and continue to lobby for a fair funding scheme, as will many of the organisations we're a member of, such as Sigoma, etc. I am, however, disappointed that the Chancellor has chosen to have a very late budget, and this will no doubt bring extra work in the run-up to Christmas break for our officers. And I know I have an awful lot to do over that period of time, and the lateness of this is not helpful, I don't think, but we are where we are with the Chancellor. Appendix C of the report includes scenario analysis, modelling best and worst case outcomes. This helps assess risk excuse me, and prepare contingency plans. The current capital plan in Appendix D includes updated general fund assumptions, HRA capital plan. A full review of the capital plan is currently underway and hopefully that's nearing completion. Business rates pool and delegated authority is proposed for the Chief Exec and Service Director of Finance to decide on continue participation in the Leeds City Region's business pool for 26-27. We have a budget development timetable in there, so key milestones include December 25, provisional budget to Cabinet, although that might be a bit difficult now with Chancellor being so late with her budget. February 26, final budget approved by Council, Cabinet and Council, and late 25, public consultation on budget proposals. Again, it might be a bit tricky with the not knowing what we're going to come in the Chancellor's budget. Officers are tasked with identifying and bringing forward savings proposals to meet the 18 million predicted gap. The strategy will remain under review as assumptions evolve and new data becomes available. The Council still faces a challenging financial landscape requiring proactive planning and engagement. Early identification service and robust consultation will be critical to deliver a sustainable budget. However, as things stand, and if the new team at DLUC don't make any significant change to the current policies, the Council's finances are in a much better place than they have been for many years, probably about 14, funnily enough. We still face challenges and we must still ensure that we keep a tight rein on spending. If we do see a council tax equalisation scheme and a recognition that deprivation needs to be recognised in the funding from central government that's provided from central government to local government, I am optimistic that we will see an increase in our funding over the next 3 years, which is to be welcome, and it's good to see a government realising that local government should be funded sufficiently and address the inequalities and deprivation we see within our society. Chair, can I ask Cabinet to receive this report?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I think we've actually got a couple of recommendations as well in those, so I will second that those recommendations. But are there questions or comments from anyone? No? So can we accept the recommendations of that report, please? Thank you. Right, moving on then to our cultural heart, part of the Huddersfield Blueprint Phase 2 Gateway 4. Councillor Turner, I believe you're presenting this.
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. Mr. Chair, thank you. I've tried to keep this brief because there's an awful lot of appendix within this report, an awful lot of work going on with it. So I've tried to keep my bit as brief as possible, but maintaining an understanding of where we are. So this is the latest report and what's been a number of reports over the progress of our cultural heart. Cabinet will have, as I said, noted this is a long and detailed report with many appendices. I think we are all well versed in the Cultural Heart project and its progress. I will cover the main points of the report rather than bore you to death with minutiae of the report and appendices. Phase 1 is continuing and we are still on target to open the site in the summer of next year. We are in negotiations for an operator for the food hall and the library service are well on with planning to open the new library. I would like to take this opportunity to remind councillors and the public that we have an open session next week so that the public can have a close look at the progress to date. And I'm sure that those attempts to go down and have a look will realise what a fantastic project this is. And now BAM have worked really hard to create something special, along with our team of officers, architects and designers. So the purpose of today's report is to provide an update on the progress of the Cultural Heart and provide an update on the current timelines. The report seeks Cabinet approval to draw down funding from our Cultural Heart capital budget. Progress Phase 2 of the development combined, which is a combined museum and art gallery, public realm and basement. Conclude Gateway 4 and award JCT construction contracts and begin enabling works during the pre-contract services agreement, which is known as the PCSA period. Finalisation of the Rebirth Stage 4 design for the museum, art gallery, public realm and basement. Planning and listing building consent matters addressed. Construction, programme and contract sum confirmed. Delegate authority toward the JCT contract and commencement works. Phase 1, contractor progress update. Preparations for Phase 3, park development, including once the existing occupants have removed themselves from the remaining retail units where their contracts are up, we will look to seek to demolish that site, part of the site as soon as possible. This will give us a considerable saving over empty business rates, so it makes sense to knock it down as soon as possible, and it'll start to give people an understanding of what the general site will look like once work is finished on the park, etc. So we're looking for procurement and award of demolition contract. Future phases, ongoing feasibility for the venue. This review has been done, and part of it, part 1, has been done, and a more detailed report is being prepared. However, the first phase indicated that the venue was still viable and that there was a market for the venue. We have already seen some early interest from operators to the venue, so the market understands that this is a potential goer, if you like. The Queen Street plot. This is a potential multi-storey car park or an alternative use. Well, we have not ruled anything out as yet, but potentially a multi-storey car park. And that will be funded from previously approved feasibility budgets. Project management and contractor costs, reallocations following Budget Council on 5th of May 2025. Operational support service budget pre and post-opening are under review. As we know, over the years, extensive public consultation and stakeholder consultation have been undertaken, including design feedback, planning, listing, history and building consent. So today's recommendation is to note the reports of the Cabinet report and to approve the recommendations contained there within there. Delegate authority of the Executive Director of Place in consultation with the Finance and Director Regeneration Portfolio holder to sign up Gateway from conclusion, award construction contract and instruct enabling works if required. Chair, that's the end of this rather brief report. Or as brief as I could make it, because you do know I get really excited about this.
As do I, Councillor Turner, as do I. So I will second that, all those recommendations. It is long and complicated, and I will just remind, I know I've already asked this, but I will remind members that there is confidential papers attached to this report, which I trust, well, you've already told me that you've read and understood, so we won't be going there. And if anyone does want to ask a question on that, we will have to withdraw into private session. But Councillor Munro, you have a question.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. So, the Lawrence Batley Theatre in Huddersfield was officially founded and opened in September 1994 by Dame Judy Dench, who laid the foundation stone. It provides a full range of entertainment and performing arts throughout the year, and it's very popular. Prior to its opening, Huddersfield had been without a theatre for a considerable length of time, and people of Huddersfield fought really hard and campaigned really long to get a theatre in Huddersfield. So, in relation to the venue, the plans for the venue 2.32 of the report, I would like to know, won't a venue be in direct conflict with the Lawrence Batley Theatre? And what do the plans for a venue mean for the future of Lawrence Batley Theatre? So that's my first question. Thank you.
Go on.
Councillor Turner.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Councillor Munro. The venue, which is a number of years away, as we well know, will be no direct competition to the Lawrence Batley, because the Lawrence Batley has a relatively small seating capacity. The venue will be considerably higher than that, so will attract a different type of audience. I know people have had many conversations with the Lawrence Batley over this, and they are as excited about the project of the cultural heart as we are. I believe that the venue will complement them, will bring more people into Huddersfield. So as the Lawrence Batley puts events on, more people will be aware of them, and I actually think they'll complement each other enormously. And I'm looking forward to that work on the venue at some point in the future, starting and delivering for us on that. I do not believe they're direct competition. I do believe that they can actually complement each other, and they will aid each other in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Munro, you are actually only allowed one question, but I do have the prerogative to allow you to answer another one. So,
oddly, I've actually been asked to come today by the Lawrence Batley Theatre to actually ask these questions. So there's a bit of anyway. Slight disagreement there. I just wanted to say, I mean, I know, Councillor Turner, you said previously, perhaps the venue is for a range of, a range of events, including weddings. Well, surely again, a wedding event at a venue would be in direct conflict with a wedding that potentially you could have at the George Hotel, for example, where we're investing a lot of money. So I just wanted to raise that as well. And I just wanted to say, have you considered, we've got the Lawrence Batley Theatre with capacity of 400 to 450. We've got Huddersfield Town Hall where there are a range of events throughout the year with an even larger capacity. And then you've got the new public realm where you could have open air events throughout the certainly when from spring to probably autumn. Something similar along the lines of the Halifax Peace Hall. So is there a real need for a venue? That's what I'm trying to say, and I really like you to take that on board and reconsider the position on the venue. Thank you.
Thank you for the supplementary. If you'd listened closely to what I said, is we have done a phase 1 feasibility study on the venue, and yes, the figures stack up. Yes, there is still a proven demand for that. A more detailed report is now being prepared. But as I said, that initial report that we just recently had done confirms the reports that we had done right when we first started the Cultural Heart, going back all those years, that there was a demand and a need to create a venue in Huddersfield. Going back to your questions about weddings, etc., the venue has the potential to do all sorts of things. We have a list a mile long of events that could well fit in there. And as I said already, people are already taking an interest in what may or may not You could have a wedding in the venue. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any rooms. So if you had a wedding in the venue, the George will be a perfect place to stay. So again, this could well complement. This will be cross-fertilisation and cross-pollinisation of buildings within the town centre. So yes, I believe it's still viable. All the evidence points to it being still viable, and it's a really exciting project. And we are one of the few local authorities that are prepared to invest in something of this nature. As someone who spends a lot of time, well, not at the moment, but you spend a lot of time in dark, dingy places watching bands play, this will be a purpose-built building. There are very few modern purpose-built buildings where you can put decent events on anywhere in the country. There are odd ones scattered around, but nobody's done anything on this scale for a number of years. Going back to the town hall, yes, the town hall does put events on. It puts a different type of events on than the venue will. We did a lot of research pre-COVID about whether we could expand the offer of the town hall. We spent a significant amount of time and money checking the acoustics out, the building out, etc. And unfortunately, it is limited to what it can put on. You can't remove the seats and put a rock band on, for instance, because the floor doesn't take it, the fire escapes are not good enough, and the acoustics are not great. So that's the reason we did say look at developing that as an all-round venue, but it's not feasible. So that's why we need a venue.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. If there's no more questions, which I don't think there is, can I ask members of the Cabinet to approve those recommendations, please? Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 13, which is the Kirklees Transport Strategy, and ask Councillor Crook to present this, please.
Thanks, Chair. So this agenda item marks completion of our first Kirklees Transport Strategy and follows approval from this committee in February to take the draft document out for public consultation. And just to clarify, it's technically asking today for a delegation to myself and the Service Director to approve, but this is just to allow time for some very minor refinements that are still being completed. This consultation has been carried out and was a great success with 2,112 individual responses, including significant free text engagement. These numbers exceeded our modelling of what was required to provide confidence that the feedback was representative, and this feedback, including free text responses and further feedback from scrutiny, has now been reflected in this latest draft of our strategy document included at Appendix E. I hope you all agree that this is a fantastic strategy and is being delivered at a very advantageous time for Kirklees, with so much development underway across the region. We have the huge Trans-Pennine Rail upgrade project underway, enormous opportunity from bus franchising, development starting on a West Yorkshire tram network, and the West Yorkshire Combined Authority Local Transport Plan version 4 also in late stages of development, as well as the momentum behind regional devolution providing even more options for development of a transport network fit for our future. This strategy will complement all of this work whilst ensuring our specific regional needs and priorities are best served to benefit residents. Our strategy reflects changing technology with a focus on access to all for electric charging, for cars, for bikes and for other modes. It ensures priority for active travel and modal shift to align with our environmental, safety and health commitments, and so that we can all ensure benefit from the train, rail and tram improvements on the way. And it prioritises people over traffic to help us allocate pedestrian and active travel space in our public realm. All of this whilst recognising that our geography means that for many of us and for many of our journeys, the car is often the only option at present. This strategy is absolutely not anti-car in any respect, but seeks to make alternative modes an easier and a preferred choice for as many journeys as possible. Throughout this strategy, through each policy, the common thread is one of emphasising equality and inclusion. Too many of our residents are excluded from work, from leisure, from education through a lack of reliable and affordable transport option. And so this policy has a clear aim to ensure as wide as possible access and inclusion so that Kirklees and West Yorkshire more broadly continue to develop as a more equal as well as a more prosperous region. I'd like to thank officers for the hard work that's gone into developing this strategy, and I'm very pleased to propose we adopt the recommendations as set out in the papers as point 1 to 4 on the cover page and for this item.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Can I ask somebody to second those recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Are there any questions on this strategy, transport strategy? No? It is very exciting, and it is part of our future delivery and supports our future delivery of so many different things within Kirklees. So thank you, Councillor Crook. Can I ask everyone to approve those recommendations, please? Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on then to item 14, which is simpler recycling in Kirklees. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking about simple recycling and extended producer responsibility legislation. These are significant changes that are going to impact both our waste services and every household and business across Kirklees. The new laws introduced in late 2024 aim to standardise waste and recycling collections across England, making it easier for everyone to recycle more effectively. We've heard it from residents in the past: why can I recycle X, Y, Z in this council area but can't here in Kirklees? With simple recycling, that question is going to be a thing of the past. For Kirklees, this means by 2028, residents will be able to recycle a wider range of items, including glass, paper films, plastic films and food waste, right from their homes. To comply, paper and card must now be collected separately from other recyclables. While the national rollout is due in 2026, due to our existing waste contract running until 2028, we're proposing a local implementation of 2028. This avoids a costly and complex mid-contract changes, and while giving us time to engage with our residents and ensure that there is a smooth transition. The legislation also introduces extended producer responsibility, meaning packaging producers will help fund local waste services. Kirklees expects to receive around 6.6 million through this scheme, though the calculation method is still evolving and will depend on our efficiency and compliance. We're also preparing for the proposed deposit return scheme for drinks containers, which will further increase recycling and reduce littering. Over the next 2 years, we'll work closely with residents, partners and other councils in the region to develop a clear, practical and cost-effective implementation plan. This includes addressing challenges such as hard-to-access properties and aligning with innovation opportunities like the Huddersfield District Heat Network and Dark Green Energy's anaerobic digestion plant, which would allow us to get some energy from that food waste that might align at the same time. Ultimately, this is a legal requirement, but also a real opportunity to improve recycling, reduce waste and create a greener Kirklees. I look forward to our collective work on this journey, and I commend this report to the Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Can I ask Councillor Crook if you would like to second this report?
Thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to second this report. I think it's a really positive step forward towards a future where we recycle as much as possible of our waste in Kirklees, and I think that regularisation of recycling across the country is only a positive step. So I'm extremely excited for the future of waste collections in Kirklees, and thank Councillor Hawkins for his work on this policy.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Are there any questions on this report? No? Okay, can I ask members of the Cabinet then to approve those recommendations? Thank you. Moving on then to item 15, Kirklees Lane Rental Scheme, which I believe is Councillor Hawkins as well. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to state the obvious here right out of the gate. Nobody likes roadworks. We all know how frustrating they can be, the delays, the diversions, the disruption, how they mess up my commute every morning. But most of us do recognise that they are a fact of life. They're essential for keeping our homes connected to water, gas, electricity and broadband. And just as important, they support our economic growth, enabling vital improvements to our transport network. I think anyone around Huddersfield will know what I'm talking about there, and unlocking investment right across Kirklees. What our residents don't accept, and rightly so, is unnecessary disruption. That means disruption on our busiest roads caused by poor planning or by different contractors returning to the same site multiple times in a matter of weeks. It also means delays when work's overrun without a good reason. That's where the lane rental scheme comes in. This scheme will give us new powers to encourage better coordination, better planning and more efficient working, particularly on our most critical routes. It allows us to designate key roads across Kirklees where charges will apply when roadworks take place at peak times. These charges, which can be up to £2,500 a day, give utility companies and other contractors a clear incentive to plan their works in a way that causes less disruption for residents and businesses. It's also about putting residents first. It's about reducing the amount of time our roads are needlessly out of action. And it's about making sure that everyone working on our network takes a more joined-up approach. As a council, we're working hard to get the basics right, and our residents and businesses expect it and they deserve it. This scheme is one of the ways we're ensuring others, including utility companies, meet that same standard. And now is the right time to introduce this. Kirklees is seeing unprecedented investment, with billions being spent across West Yorkshire to improve transport, like the TRU upgrades happening right now. Here in our district, we've got regeneration schemes transforming our town centres, which Councillor Turner articulated, and within our local communities. And with that level of change and investment, managing disruption becomes even more important. It's also worth noting that we're not doing this in isolation. Our neighbours across West Yorkshire are exploring and implementing their own schemes, creating an opportunity for more joined-up planning at a regional level as well. That's good news for commuters, businesses, and anyone who just wants to get from A to B without any unnecessary hold-ups. This is the right scheme and the right time for Kirklees, and I commend this report to you all and ask you to support the lane rental scheme going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins, and I will ask again Councillor Crook to second this report.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this is an exceptionally positive step for Kirklees. This particular initiative began its journey during my tenure as highways portfolio holder, and a really, really exciting development for Kirklees, shifting responsibility to the utility companies, not only to minimise the time that they cause disruption, but also to complete repairs completely so that they don't need to dig the roads up so frequently to repeatedly repair the same fault. So our critical route network will be freer as a result of this initiative, and I'm very grateful to Councillor Hawkins and to officers for bringing this forward today.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Are there any questions on this scheme? It is a very positive move. No? Okay, thank you very much. Can we approve those recommendations? Thank you. The next item is the community asset transfer of the Dram Center is it just the Dram Center? Sorry, and the Hudawi Center, sorry. Councillor Hawkins has already declared an interest in these reports. Councillor Turner, will you please present these?
Yep. So, Chair, thank you very much. This report seeks Cabinet approval to transfer the Hudawi Center to a consortium of community groups that have come together. The consortium will form and register a new charitable incorporated organisation, the name and address which will be confirmed upon notice of a successful asset transfer. The CIC will then reassign the lease to this new organisation within the first 12 months of the asset transfer. The Hudawi Center, located on Great Northern Street in Huddersfield, has long served as a cultural and social hub for the town's African and Afro-Caribbean communities. Originally built on the site of the former Beaumont Street School, the centre was opened in 1997 and has been used for council meetings and community events since then. I was first approached by the community several years before COVID and held several meetings with the community about the possibility of asset transfer in the centre. However, at that time, it felt that the centre was still strategically important to the council, so this was not pursued. However, with the changes of the way the council works since the pandemic and its needs for assets, the council identified the Hudawi Centre as surplus to requirements and considered its disposal. Following strong community interest, the council initiated a community asset transfer process, or CAT. In response to the council's announcement, the coalition of community organisations formed the Hudawi Consortium. This group includes the Black Business Support Agency, BBSA, Building of African Caribbean Communities, BACC, Black Lives Coalition, the Alliance of Black Churches in Huddersfield, Education 2000 and Oasis Care Support Service. The consortium emerged from the momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement and the COVID-19 pandemic, aiming to reclaim the centre as a spiritual home for the community. On September 9th, 2025, Kirklees Council considered and will hopefully approve the asset transfer of the Hudawi Center to the BBSA CIC, a member of the consortium. The transfer will be executed through a 125-year lease in line with the Council's community asset transfer policy dated 2020. Key provisions include a lease duration of 125 years and delegated to the Service Director, Legal and Governance and Commissioning for the legal governance and oversight of the transfer. The long lease provides the security needed for the consortium to attract external funding and ensure long-term sustainability. The consortium's vision is to transform the Hudawi Center into a vibrant, inclusive community that meets cultural, educational and social needs. Plans include a programme of community engagement and consultation, development of financially sustainable operations and preservation of Centre's cultural legacy. The consortium spokesman, Dominic Pinnock, somebody might know him, emphasised that the success of the transfer will be a shared achievement for the entire community, and I wholeheartedly agree this will be a community-led project. Finally, the asset transfer of the Hudawi Center marks a significant milestone in community empowerment and cultural preservation in Huddersfield. It reflects the Council's commitment to enabling local communities to take ownership of valued assets and shape their future. I've been involved in most, if not all, the Council's community transfers, and the level of support from the community and commitment from the community and their desire to get involved and make the Hudawi Centre a strong, vibrant community space has been exceptional, and those involved are a credit to the community they represent. I am convinced that once the transfer has been complete and the CIC gets its feet on the table, this will be a fantastic success story. It therefore gives me great pleasure to ask Cabinet to approve this report and approve the asset transfer of the Hudawi Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I will second that report of the community asset transfer of the Hudawi Center. Are there any questions on that one? Councillor Hawkins.
Comment more than anything, Leader. Some cabinet members, some cabinet meetings, we have to make some difficult choices, but today might be one of the easiest choices we've ever been asked to make in supporting the asset transfer of two very much loved community assets in the Hudawi Center and the Dram Center in the next item into the hands of the people who know them best. The Hudawi is more than a building, it's a cultural anchor. I've heard time and time again from members of the Afro-Caribbean community about the pride, belonging and heritage that Hudawi represents. With the team of Errol Brown and the consortium at the helm, I know the centre will not only survive but thrive, and as a hub of activity and celebration for years to come. I'll have a little bit to say as well on the next item too, but I'll leave that there. I'm very happy and very proud to support.
Sorry. Councillor Pinnock.
Yeah, I should have said at the beginning to declare an interest that I know who Dominic Pinnock is.
Surprise, surprise. I think I know who Dominic Pinnock is.
Yeah,
as well.
and I'm just to throw my two pennies worth in. So the title Hudawi is an anagram of Huddersfield African and West Indian Cultural Centre, and it's been a long time coming. And I know it's something that the community are very excited about. They've been lobbying, as Councillor Turner has said, for a very, very long time, since the early 90s is my understanding. So if the Cabinet approve it today, it'll be a historic, excellent moment for the community. And obviously this is a building that's going to be open to all communities. But obviously the African Caribbean community will take a lot of pride in this. I know the consortium, it's made up, as Councillor Turner has said, of individual community groups from the African and Caribbean community who have come together for the sole purpose of wanting to make this happen. So, I'm really looking forward to the future and how this building is going to be utilised. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor Munir Ahmed, you wanted to comment or question?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. This is a very special day for Dalton because today we celebrate not one, but two community assets being secured for the future. The Hudawi Center, and hopefully the next report will be about the Dram Center as well. Both have the heartbeat of our community for decades. And this is a place where people have come together, where opportunities have been created, and where the life of Dalton has been enriched. 2 years ago, when this process began, we asked the community groups to step forward, and they did. The Hudawi Consortium rose to the challenge with vision, determination and passion. They've been through a long and sometimes difficult journey, but they've never given up, and that perseverance has brought us to this moment. The Hudawi Center has always been a place of pride for our African Caribbean community, a venue of cultural identity and celebration. It is deeply woven into the fabric of Dalton, and it is only right that their futures are placed into the hands of those who love them most. Whilst I believe that there are lessons to be learnt about how long this process has taken, today I feel nothing but pride. These groups have proved that they have the commitment and the plans to keep these assets thriving for generations. So I want to thank the Hudawi Consortium for everything that they've done to make today possible. You've shown what true community spirit looks like, and I look forward to seeing the Hudawi flourish under your leadership, and I strongly urge the Cabinet to approve the asset transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. No more questions? It's been moved and seconded, so can we agree the recommendations for the community asset transfer of the Hudawi Center? Thank you. And then we will move on to the community asset transfer for the Dram Center. Councillor Turner.
Chair, thank you. And just reiterating what Councillor Hawkins said, quite often in here it's all bad news and doom and gloom. Things are not great and all that, but today is one of those days that we do two really important things for our communities and for the residents of Kirklees. So yeah, it's going to be positive as long as you agree with this one. As with the previous item, the report before you today is to approve the asset transfer council asset to the community. This one is a Dram Center, which is on Ridgeway in Dalton. The proposal is again a 125-year lease to Mole Green AR LFC, Dram Holdings Community Interest Company, again a CIC. I'm asking Cabinet to approve the lease transfer with authority delegated to the service, relevant service director to negotiate terms and for our legal team to be instructed to execute all necessary documentations. Transfer will support local control over community assets, a thing we've long strived to do. It aligns with our community asset transfer policy of 2020, as did the previous one. It provides security for the CIC to access grant funding that the council can't. Ensures long-term community use of the facility, and once again empowers the local community to develop a site and widen the range of its operations to include more community-based events and groups. Built in 2004 with a mixture of government and sporting club funding, it includes a sports pavilion, pitches, mugger and car park, and has previously been used for some council services and community sports. The CIC was formed in January 2024 to lead the asset transfer. The board includes trustees of Mole Green Hampton Rugby League Football Club, 60 plus years old club plans, and plans to maintain and manage the site for community use. Offer youth clubs, something we desperately need, training, dropping centres, cafe and events. Expand rugby to more age groups and introduce female teams. And become a community wellbeing hub with Rugby Football League support. Finally, I would like to thank the officers of the CIC for their time and patience, as this at times has been a challenging process, but all parties have stuck with it and worked through all those challenges in a collaborative manner, and we can now see the positive outcome from all that hard work. I wish the CIC all the best, and I'm sure that this will be a great success story in the future years to come. Chair, can I ask Cabinet to formally approve today's report and asset transfer the Dram Center to the CIC?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'll second that report. Any comments or questions? Councillor Hawkins? And, well, Councillor Hawkins first.
Thank you, Chair. And can I say as well, can I thank Tony and Anthony for persisting today as well. I mean, 2 more hours after 2 years, I'm sure it don't feel too much, does it? But thank you all the same. Similarly to what we were talking about, the Hudawi, the Dram Center is equally vital. I've lived in Dalton all my life, and I'd say this is a statement of fact. The existence of the Dram Center has just changed the makeup of the area of Dalton completely. It's given young people opportunities that simply didn't exist before. Through the dedication of the Moor Green Rugby Club alongside their partners Empower and Wisecap, we've seen the centre become a place of growth, safety and resilience. In Tony Goldstein, Anthony Collins and their colleagues, we have exactly the leadership needed to safeguard its future. Yes, it has taken 2 years to reach this point, and at times it has been very frustrating and touch and go sometimes. But today, I hope we're about to see that perseverance does pay off. These groups have shown not just heart, but also the business acumen and the planning to keep both assets sustainable for the long-term future. So I want to again offer my thanks and my wholehearted support to Moor Green ARLFC. They've given Dalton something to be proud of, and I will do all I can as a councillor and a resident as well to support them in the years ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Ahmed.
Hoping that these two reports were going to be combined. So I had one statement, so obviously, which was going to be equally the same passion and the same commitment and the determination which Hudawi's got, has got exactly the same as Dram. But I will hopefully repeat some of the things, but some different aspects of the Dram Center itself. And as we've indicated in terms of 2 years ago when the process began, the rugby club, Moor Green Rugby Club, rose to the actual challenge to this vision of the asset transfer. And they demonstrate immense vision, determination and passion. And they have also been through a long journey and difficult journey. And at times they did want to give up, just like Hudawi, but they didn't. They persevered, they continued, and they carried on. And the fruits are here now at the moment in terms of having this transfer approved. The Dram Center has not only just given the community a great deal of inspiration and engagement, they've also given the young people a positive path which creates opportunities through sports, education and support services. Every time I've been there, it's thriving, it's bustling, and people are wanting and engaging to get engaged and involved. So it's deeply woven into the fabric of Dalton, and it's only right that the future is placed in the hands of those that love this the most, and that is the Dram Center. So I feel nothing but pride, and I feel nothing but pride for both of the groups, and they have proved their commitment and their plans. And I want to say thank you to the Moor Green Rugby Club for everything that you've done to make this possible. And I would like to put forward and see this and urge the Cabinet to approve the asset transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. It's been, no more questions comments from anybody. No, it's been moved and seconded. Can I see Cabinet's approval for this transfer? Thank you very much. Thank you. That does conclude all the items for today's Cabinet. So thank you. I will close the meeting.